Welcome to the Think Like a Saver Paying for Education virtual town hall. Settle in as our America Saves team and industry experts share relatable tips, knowledge, and resources that will help you navigate paying for college. Today you'll walk away with great starting points for filling out the FAFSA, as well as researching and applying for scholarships and grants. We encourage you to take lots of notes, share, leave comments, and ask questions. But most importantly, get the foundation and resources you need to save tremendously on education costs.
Thanks for joining us for our Think Like a Saver Town Hall, Paying for Education. If this is your first time attending an America Saves Town Hall, you are in for a treat. Several times a year, we host these virtual chats focused on personal finance topics that our savers, you at home, choose and are interested in. Education remains a top savings goal of both our adult and our youth savers, and we want to support them, motivate them, and encourage them through resources and tools. So today, we've brought together dynamic experts, speakers, and members of our National Youth Advisory Council to bring you real, relatable information, tips, and strategies around how to approach paying for education, no matter if your child is a toddler or a senior in high school. Two things I want to be sure that you know. Just because you're here with us today, you're eligible for two opportunities. First is the ability to work with a financial counselor or coach at absolutely no cost to you. Our friends at AFCPE and the Coordinated Assistance Network have made this opportunity possible for you. All you have to do is sign up at the link below. That will also put in the comments and share again at the end. Be sure to tell them that America Saves sent you. The other great opportunity you have is our Think Like a Saver sweepstakes, which are five $500 cash prizes that we'll give away to you, our savers. All you have to do to be eligible is comment with your top takeaway that you learned from this town hall today on Facebook or YouTube in the next 24 hours, and take the America Saves pledge within the last 12 months. If you're unsure if you've taken it, go on ahead and make a new savings plan. Now, before we get into diving to all the things that are paying for education, we want to share a tip that you may be able to incorporate right now, no matter what you're saving for. Maybe it's education, maybe you're new to saving and working on getting into the habit of saving by establishing a savings goal. But that habit is saving automatically. Let's hear from our savers.
So we actually met about 2 years ago. I was bartending and she came to my bar and I paid her no attention. And 2 years later, we're married, which is awesome. We have two kids, a 4-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy. I have a tutoring business, so I spend all my time, all day, every day, tutoring students anywhere from K through 12th grade and college here in our community. One of the things that we do to make sure that our family is able to still have financial stability, probably the number one important thing for us is talking. Communication is key, right? We're looking at each other's bank accounts. We're talking about debt. We're talking about mistakes. We're talking about where we are and where we want to be. So that's number one. You have to talk about things in order to actually do something. And the second thing we do is we try to put our plan into motion. Money gets directly transferred. From my checking account, I have money that goes directly to my savings account. And I have it set up to do that every Friday. So it's a weekly thing. And so that's a good practice for us and having a family now is that money is able to, if we need to get extra groceries or gas money, definitely during COVID time, the loss of job, the loss of hours, the loss of extra income, being able to tap into that as needed is key. For us, saving automatically is definitely the easiest way to save because we can set it and we can forget it.
Savings is a habit, not a destination.
Take the America Saves pledge and choose your savings goal by visiting americasaves.org.
Hey, Kia. Let's talk about the timeline of saving for education and frame education as a savings goal within the bigger picture.
Okay, Amelia, let's get into it. So, we're all trying to rebuild and stabilize our finances from the pandemic, right? And we are not naive. We know that there are many people who are simply not in a place where this is a possibility right now to even be thinking about this, and that's okay. So, today's town hall is less about student loans, which is what makes most post secondary education accessible to many Americans. And it's more about ways to help you creatively save on education costs. However, if you do want information about student loans, we've made a really great YouTube playlist that we will put in the comments for you from previous town hall that we had back in 2020 that goes over all things student loan and is still very relevant to today.
That's right. This town hall is about building your financial confidence, ensuring that you're informed and empowered, and that you're aware of how to save and pay for education outside of student loans. We are not mandating you must be saving for education or you're years behind in your plan. You know your financial situation best. The most important thing right now is your financial stability. So the truth is, there's a lot of competing priorities when it comes to saving. There's day-to-day expenses, saving for emergencies and unexpected costs, saving for retirement, and then all of the things in between, even the fun things. So education is also one of those. That being said, for those of you with children in high school that want to go on to college, it's not just an upcoming cost, it's territory that you can always use support navigating. And for those of us with younger children, like me, you can either hear all the stories about how student loan debt is crippling, or you're experiencing it yourself and you want to avoid that for children.
That's right. And over the past several months, you've been working with the National Youth Advisory Council, Amelia, a group of young adults between the ages of 14 to 21. They are so amazing. And they are ambassadors in their community for America Saves. Now, this council was made possible by the generous support of MetLife and this amazing group of young people. They come from all over the country and have truly been integral in reimagining our America Saves for Young Workers program, where organizations partner with us to support their first time youth employees, establishing the building blocks of financial stability, like opening an account, utilizing direct deposit, and saving automatically.
That is right. And to jumpstart our information and insights today, we're going to hear from Councilmember Yaritza on the EOF program that she participated in at her college.
Hi, my name is Yaritza Rodriguez, and I'll be explaining to you the reason why I did the EOF program at my college, Rutgers University North. There's many opportunities that EOF helps grant students. One of the biggest one is financial assistance. As a student coming from a low-income family, EOF has helped me a lot when it comes to paying for my tuition and for book supplies, and even putting some money off into the bank when I have that extra money. So I highly recommend students to apply to the EOF program. It helps prepare you for college. They have a lot of workshops and networking opportunities, so go do it.
Now, this group has been extremely helpful for us in having the perspective of young people navigating this process currently and those who recently navigated it. So you'll be hearing from more of them throughout this entire event.
That's right. And I'm so excited to have their voices incorporated here with us this evening. So again, let's hear from Owen, who just applied for college last year at the height of the pandemic, and he started this month. He has some words of encouragement for those who are navigating this process in the pandemic.
Hi, everyone. My name is Owen, and I'm a freshman in college. My tip is to not hesitate and don't be afraid to ask others for help. When I was applying for colleges, it was an extremely tough and kind of confusing process, but I got support from my parents and my high school guidance counselor, and together we were able to find some really great scholarships. You guys got it, and stay positive.
Now I'd like to welcome Cindy Boyles Crawford from the Office of Admissions at the University of Georgia. Cindy, let's jump right into it with this question. What is the main and most important takeaway you want college-bound students and their parents to know?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here today. My main takeaway for students and their supporters in applying for college and looking for scholarships is to always complete the free application for federal student aid.
Speaking of FAFSA, let's invite Isaiah Ellis from the Department of Education to give more insights into the FAFSA process and things to be aware of as the application opens on October 1st.
Thank you for that question. The FAFSA opens up on October 1st each year. If a student is wishing to enroll between July 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2023, then they're going to complete the 2022-23 FAFSA form. And just to note that the FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And what that means is that this application is free for the student. Now, if a student is currently enrolled and has not completed the FAFSA, they still have an opportunity to do so, and they're going to complete the 2021-22 FAFSA form. Now, keep in mind, applying early is important because it gives the student the opportunity to meet deadlines that are set in place by the college, university, or career school, or deadlines that's set in place by the higher education authority in their particular state. Now, a couple of different things to note for students is that number one, they might want to have their social security card nearby because it's important that the information that's on the FAFSA is also the information that is recorded and listed within the Social Security Administration. They also want to make sure they have any asset or financial information just in case they're unable to utilize the IRS data retrieval tool, which is also known as the IRS DRT. But some things that we would always tell students to keep in mind is don't be afraid to ask questions. Questions is part of the process, but there are resources to help you. For example, we have what's called a virtual assistant Aiden that's also listed under the My Student Aid account for students as well. We have the My Student Aid mobile app that students can download as part of the App Store or Play Store on their respected phones. We also have information that's listed on the studentaid.gov. And when students and parents and college access professionals and school counselors wish to get more information about that, we have to go to the website and they can also indicate who they are and look for the information that they seek. We also have information for students with loans. Check out our loan simulator. It would also be able to review and pick out what repayment plan best fits your financial needs. Lastly, but most importantly, don't be afraid to seek out those that have the answers. A lot of times we have students that are just afraid to ask the questions to individuals because they're afraid of who the individual are or what influence they may have. Do not be afraid to seek out the answers because that's the only way you'll be able to move forward.
Really great information, Isaiah. Cindy, help us paint a picture of higher education costs and the money that's out there to offset that. We know that there are essentially three categories of resources out there to help students pay for college, right? We have scholarships that come from state funds, the institution, or foundations. Then we have aid, which is need-based aid and can come through the institution or government. And then there are educational benefits, such as those from employers and the GI Bill for those in the military community. And the third category is loans, federal and private loans, where people take on debt to pay for higher education. So, can you kind of take us through what people should know when relying on some of these resources from the institution?
Yeah, glad to. When students and their supporters are looking for scholarships and outside funds to help support their college education, those resources can come from a lot of different places. So there are institutional scholarships that students should learn about when they're applying for colleges, and there's many different ways that they can apply for those scholarships. In many cases, that may be included with the admissions application review. Additionally, there are scholarships that are available that are part of a sponsored scholarship program. Here in the state of Georgia, we're very fortunate to have our Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship Program, and students can access information about these programs and lots of other resources through the Georgia Futures program, which is available online. Then there's also scholarships that come from basically anywhere. So students can look for scholarships that are based on their location, the high school that they attend, what they're interested in studying, what their background is, where their parents may be employed. And so students should really incorporate this process into the college application process as well. A lot of high school counselors, in fact, most of them that I know and work with, spend a good bit of time helping to educate their students that are applying to college, their high school seniors, about these types of opportunities that are specific to them. So students should really take the time to research those opportunities and fill out those additional applications that may be out there. They may take a little bit of extra time to submit those essays, to submit those applications, and it's important to remember that those can usually be stacked as well. So every little bit helps and can add up and help pay for your overall cost of attendance. Another thing that's really important to understand is just the overall differences in the cost of attendance based on the types of institutions that you're interested in. So students and their supporters should have very open conversations about those differences. If you're attending a private institution or a public institution, those differences are going to be things to take into account. All colleges are required to publish and be transparent about their direct and indirect cost based on where students may be from. So, for example, a student who's looking at a public institution that is state sponsored, like here at the University of Georgia, there's going to be a different tuition rate based on if you're from the state of Georgia and are a tax-paying citizen here, or if you're not from the state of Georgia. So that is another big takeaway that I have for folks, is just understanding the cost of attendance and having that be a part of your conversation early and often in the college application process.
Thanks so much, Cindy. That is great information. And, going back to your original point about finding all of those scholarships and all of that money from everywhere, we've been working with the National Youth Advisory Council members and the sites that they actually used themselves when they were going through this process. So they compiled a list of their top 5, and Sherry is going to share it with us now.
Hi everyone, this is Sherry here. So I'll be telling you guys about 5 private scholarships and grants websites that you can use during your application process. So the first one is Scholarly, and the second one is bold.org. The third one is fastweb.org. The fourth one is Unigo, and the fifth one is Going Merry. So out of the 5, there are definitely a lot of scholarship opportunities, and you can find one that's eligible for you.
Such good information to share. I do want to make sure that the savers out there understand that understanding that cost of attendance is so very important. Like I mentioned earlier, it's really important for students and their supporters to have those very frank conversations about cost of attendance and how that can differ between different types of institutions that are out there. So it's really key for students to understand the difference between public college cost, private institutional cost, as well as some of their own state-sponsored scholarship programs, like I mentioned before. So, for example, here in the state of Georgia, students have these fantastic opportunities for the Hope and Zell Miller scholarship programs, and they can get information about that from their high school counselors or from going to georgiafutures.org.
Thank you again, Cindy, for giving our community of savers, whether it's our adult savers saving for their child's education, our young workers who are saving for their own education, or their parents, so much information, and how to really have that 3-pronged approach for paying for education. So need-based aid, scholarships, and scholarships first, then loans. So council members also had one app recommendation as well. Let's hear from Brianna.
A great tool that helped me pay for my college expenses was the Raise Me app. This is a free app that anyone can use by just computing their high school achievements starting from 9th grade. Through this app, I've earned just about $6,000 per year to help with my college expenses.
Now let's dive a little bit more deeply into how to find these scholarships and save so that you don't have to rely as heavily on loans.
So, for those of you that are parents of high schoolers or soon to be high schoolers, you probably have a lot of questions. Whether you've done this before or it's your first go round, it seems like there's always new things to know, new resources, and more when it comes to scholarships, grants, and all that you need to actually pay for college. And that was definitely the case for our National Youth Advisory Council members that are still in high school. Not only are they navigating this for the first time, but there's also the added layer of the pandemic. I personally just sent my daughter off to college last month and still feel like there's a lot that I don't know, and I want to be better prepared with my son, who's a freshman in high school right now. So we brought in an expert, Trevor Ramus, to offer some advice and support in answering their questions and my questions too. Okay. Trevor is the author of How to Get Free Money for College and president of the College Funding Remedies. He's been in the college admissions and financial aid consulting space for over 11 years. And Trevor guides families on how to prepare for college, find colleges, and apply to colleges, and get scholarships and grants, which is super important to all of us, and then how to pay for those out-of-pocket college expenses too.
Hey, Trevor, thanks so much for joining us. Let's get into it. Many parents and students want to get their students college or university degrees, but are super worried about not accruing too much debt. One strategy that has been shared for the years, and we see through our America Saves for Young Workers program, is the recommendation to attend a local community college for 2 years, get excellent grades, and then transfer those credits into an in-state college. This has also been shared through some of our partners and in the community. And it's really effective, particularly for first-generation college students or undocumented students. So can you walk us through your thoughts and recommendations around that strategy?
I think that there are cases where community college will cost the least as far as tuition and living expenses. In fact, there are many high schools who are encouraging students to take community college credits while in high school. There are also many scenarios, however, where attending a four-year university directly through can cost the same, less, or a little bit more than attending a community college and transferring to an in-state university.
So those are some really great points. And I know Amelia and I have talked a lot about how the idea of starting in community college is often touted as a great, smart way to save, but it only ever seems to be given as an option for kids who aren't from families with money or who have a lower income. So it kind of toes the line of being a bit classist, if I'm being honest, to some degree, if you're not careful. So that's why we're happy to have experts like you, Trevor, who essentially teach anyone how to find the money they need to attend college, the college that they actually want to attend, regardless of their family's income and without having to take on major debt.
That's so true. And one of our council members did actually make the choice that pursuing community college was right for her. So let's hear from you, Kaya, on how she decided that.
So choosing a university can be difficult, but the way that I did it was by considering what my end goals were and what my current financial status was and what I was expecting it to be in the future. And ultimately, I ended up going with community college. But I think it's just really important to consider everything as a whole, because the debt you accrue now, you'll also be taking with you later. So just think about where you want to be.
Trevor, some of our high school council members and their parents have some questions for you. So let's get into those. Blake has a question about grants versus scholarships.
What's the difference between grants and scholarships, and how do I know which one I should focus on applying for?
Oh, so my answer to that is grants are usually need-based, I say usually because there are some colleges that will call a grant a scholarship, but it really is a grant. It's based on the family's finances. How do you decide which one you should focus on? Each school has a net price calculator on their website, which you can enter in some of your financial information and be able to see if you would qualify for a grant. Um, if you do not qualify for a grant, it does not mean that you still cannot get a very large scholarship from that school.
That's really important to point out that once, if you can't get the grant, then you still have other opportunities available to you. So, our next question, Trevor, is from Isabella, and she's asking a really great question about expected family contribution.
How does FAFSA determine a family EFC?
How does FAFSA determine family EFC? So the FAFSA is going to ask questions about family income and family assets. The assets that they usually look at do not include the equity in the family's primary residence, although it will include the equity in rental properties. And the income, they're looking at your adjusted gross income, um, as well as any contributions to retirement accounts. So they add those numbers back. And based on your income and the assets, family income and the assets, they will compute how much a family is expected to afford each year for school. And the colleges will base their financial aid awards on that number. They'll try to get as close to that number as possible.
Thanks for that breakdown, Trevor. It's a complicated science. And last, we have Angie with a question about finding scholarships.
What are some credible and common scholarships and where to find them that are offered to high school students which can be used for college?
Okay. The largest scholarships, I would say, will be offered to you from the college itself. But I think the question is about private scholarships, outside scholarships. I believe earlier in the segment we covered the Posse Scholarship. There's also the Stamps Foundation, which offers scholarships through several institutions, which can be as high as a full ride. And every school has a scholarship. Almost every school has a scholarship that if you apply a little bit early, you'll be able to compete for. I'm a huge proponent of applying to scholarships locally. So, contacting your Rotary Club, Kiwanis, Daughters of American Revolution, Lions clubs, seeing if they have scholarships for people in your city. You can look at clubs that you've been a part of in high school to see if they have a scholarship for high school students. A lot of credit unions offer a private scholarship, as well as the city that you live in, especially if it's a smaller city. And then also the colleges that you're applying to, they do have scholarships on their website that high school students can apply for often.
Those are some really great ideas and places to look for. So thanks for sharing all of that with us, Trevor. One thing I wanted to quickly cycle back to that we were talking about off camera before we were here was that you shared with us that the term EFC is going to change. Just for our savers that are watching and those parents and high schoolers, what did you say that they'll be calling that starting next year?
It's SSI, so Student Aid Index. And I think just because the term expected family contribution was confusing for a lot of families because they assumed that was the only amount that they would be paying. And your awards will be based on your student aid index or expected family contribution, but it's not necessarily going to match what FAFSA says you'll pay. What you end up paying may not be what FAFSA says you pay.
That's really helpful. So you've given us, again, a lot of great insights today. Is there anything else that you feel is incredibly important that for parents, high schoolers to know as they embark and get closer to their college journey that we haven't discussed today in regards to saving for costs on your education?
I guess the first thing that I'll say is the harder the school is to get into, the more money that they're going to give to the right student. So don't be afraid of schools that are more expensive, especially private schools, because they may end up giving you the best financial aid offer and the lowest net cost. I also think if you're looking at public schools, that there might be programs um, for schools that are in neighboring states to yours. So, say for instance, I'm in California. Schools in Arizona can offer a reduced tuition rate to California residences, and there are other schools in states that work that way as well. I think a lot of people overlook becoming a resident advisor. This is something you can only do after the first or second year at your college, but you can apply to um, basically be a hall monitor in the dorms, to put it as simply as possible. And those students get free room and board, which can cost anywhere between $8,000 to $16,000 a year. And you can save that even if you do not qualify for financial aid. And then I think another thing that people overlook is the ROTC program. So you can also train simultaneously to be an officer in the United States military, and those students can receive very substantial scholarships to pay for their tuition as well.
Those are excellent points, Trevor. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you mentioned private schools. Our council members have really been sharing their experiences with some private schools being extremely expensive, and then some of them actually being the most generous with aid. So that's something for our savers to just keep in the back of their mind, that each private institution is going to kind of run the gamut in terms of cost, regardless of that initial price tag. I'm sure that everything else that you've said today has been extremely helpful to our viewers, and that they've been taking notes and have great places to start with their own researching. And to our savers at home, as you continue to think about how to pay for education and your finances as a whole, this is the perfect time to remind you about the opportunity to get a free financial counselor or coach through AFCPE. Taking advantage of this valuable resource gives you a huge advantage to truly get a clear view of your finances and start or continue your journey towards your savings goals.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Wiggins, Executive Director for the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education. We are delighted to sponsor today's virtual town hall event and really thrilled to work in partnership with America Saves and the Coordinated Assistance Network to offer free one-on-one financial counseling and coaching to anyone who wants it. At AFCPE, we believe in a future where all people, regardless of your income level or your background, are empowered to achieve lasting financial well-being through the highest standards of financial counseling, coaching, and education. So to all the savers who are tuning in today to learn about creative ways to save, simply click on the link in the chat. You'll fill out a brief survey to provide us with some information that helps us match you with an accredited financial counselor. There's absolutely no cost to you, thanks to the generous support of Wells Fargo, and your session will be completely tailored to your questions and needs and goals. So we hope you'll take advantage of this incredible opportunity.
Thanks so much, Rebecca, for that information. Now, before we recap today, if you end up not, or if you do end up considering student loans to pay for your education, we want to share this one tip with you. So we're going to have Rachel Gettleman from the Consumer Federation of America share one thing you should try to avoid.
Hi, I'm Rachel Gettleman with Consumer Federation of America. Today's town hall lays out many ways to save on educational expenses. However, most people will need to turn to loans to help. Whenever taking on debt, it's important to read the fine print and understand repayment terms and the cost of borrowing. Each borrower needs to assess their individual situation. For example, how long they plan to be in school, what employment opportunities they plan to pursue, whether graduate school will be necessary, and what resources they have available to them. As with any type of debt, failure to pay back loans on time can have significant long-term impacts on a borrower's financial well-being, credit, and ability to make other large purchases. Options for students include federal and private student loans. Parents looking to help supplement a student borrower have two options: Parent Plus loans, which are underwritten by the federal government, and private parent loans. Although federal loans may have a slightly higher interest rate, they normally offer more protections than consumer safeguards. However, one federal loan that poses significant risks to borrowers is the Parent Plus loan. Parent Plus loans are made without regard for a family's ability to repay, as they simply require a basic credit check looking for adverse credit events. In addition, Parent Plus loans are the most expensive type of federal loan, with both higher interest rates and origination fees than other loans. Plus, they come with fewer safeguards if a family becomes unable to repay. Other products to be wary of are private, student, and parent loans. Private loans lack the same transparency, public reporting requirements, and oversight as federal loans. Underwriting standards for private student loans have loosened over the years, making these products riskier for consumers. Other products to be careful of are income share agreements, which are direct-to-consumer products that commit a student to pledge a proportion of future income in exchange for money to pay for college. These products are often touted as a low-cost, non-debt alternatives, but these products actually carry few protections, can be extremely high cost, and can have harmful borrower terms. To learn more about different types of loans, you can always look to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has lots of information about understanding your situation, knowing your rights, and learning about different ways to pay for college.
Now, Amelia, what tips do you have for our savers as we get ready to wrap up today's town hall?
I mean, definitely use the resources, use the comments, tools, links, and resources that we've provided today on this town hall as the starting place for you to start your savings journey for education and decide what's right and available to you and your family.
For sure. And also, one last point to remember is you have those two additional opportunities that Amelia shared at the beginning of today's town hall. So we have free financial coaching and counseling through AFCPE, and we also have that opportunity to win one of 500 cash prizes for our Think Like a Saver sweepstakes.
That's right. I am so excited that our savers were able to get some of the tips and insights from our National Youth Advisory Council today. They have lived through this experience. Many of them have been navigating finishing high school, transitioning to college in the pandemic. So they have unique insights, and I'm glad that we got to hear that. Thanks so much for joining us today. Don't forget to post your top takeaway on YouTube or in the comments, like Kia said, so that you're eligible for one of our 5 $500 prizes and to take the America Saves Pledge.
That's it for Think Like a Saver, Paying for Education. We'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsors whose generous donations helped us bring this event to you. As always, we encourage you to share what tips you plan to implement from today's event. Thank you for allowing America Saves to be your savings accountability partner and trusted resource as you work towards your financial goals.